All right, first up today, though, midlife doesn't mean a crisis. It can actually be the beginning of something very fabulous.
Our next guest wrote this book. It's called Cannonball, Fearlessly Facing Midlife and Beyond. I like it. We are always happy to welcome Amy Schmidt to the Morning Blend because I wish she was my neighbor. Today, she has some interesting insights to share with us. Hi, Amy.
Hey, Amy.
Good morning. How are you?
We're good. It's always wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. So much fun.
So I asked you to tackle this topic because you brought it up to me once in an email and then we didn't have time to talk about it. So I wanted to kind of hone in on it. And it's basically what you learned from Peloton instructors for your happy life. So this is about 4 different points that you suggest that instructors recommend, and then you're going to give us maybe 1 or 2 specifics. So let's start with setting boundaries. How is setting boundaries going to make us happier in life?
Oh, such a great question. Setting boundaries. And it's so hard to do. You know, what I'm talking about when I say setting boundaries, it's as simple as when you wake up in the morning, don't check your email. You know, don't scroll through your social media. Even though your phone is sitting there, because, you know, we don't have those typical alarm clocks anymore. Put it aside and set that boundary for yourself so that you can just sit back and, you know, take that moment, take that time in the minute in the, you know, in the morning to have your coffee or to just sit and be, instead of starting your day with that cadence of scrolling through social media, which is something that's so easy for us to do. Another example of a boundary that is, you know, kind of putting yourself as the priority is saying on Friday night, you know what, at 6 o'clock, I'm done. I have to shut it down. Of course, unless there's something at work that's really, really important and you have to get done. But otherwise, take that time, set that boundary and say, all right, I'm done. Maybe don't check your emails on the weekend. You know, those types of things are examples of setting boundaries that can help so much and really allow yourself to treat yourself, like I always say, as a guest of honor, putting yourself first. You know, a boundary for me was, I remember when a few years ago, I was having a conversation with friends and, you know, there was an email chain going on. It was a committee or something. And I always responded right away. It was like, all right, I'm going to respond. Then I kind of got a little bit, you know, more mature and a little bit more like, okay, I'm going to give myself 24 hours. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but my boundary was I'm giving myself 24 hours to respond. I'm going to then be in the right emotional state. I'm not going to react. I'm going to take the time. Well, then as life goes on and things change and things evolve and you get busier, I had to say, you know what, I can't respond to you in 24 hours anymore. I need to set a new boundary. And I needed to take that time to say, okay, how am I going to best serve myself and my response to this person? I'm going to give myself 48 hours. So a new boundary. So it's constantly something you have to kind of, you know, reflect on and, you know, recalibrate at times. But those are examples of setting boundaries and taking time to put yourself first, which we never do.
I love that you say that. I think it's so hard for people to do that. Like that probably gives some people anxiety just thinking about not responding right away. But as you mentioned, the more that you do it, the more you practice that boundary, you're probably going to have a little more freedom to extend that boundary and probably feel a lot more alive. So I love that one. The next one you say is act on what you need rather than what you want.
Oh, isn't that hard? I mean, just saying that, act on what you need rather than what others want. And an example of this would be, let's go to something you've done for years. Maybe it's homeroom mom, or maybe it's, you know, a booster club president or whatever it was, or you served on a committee and you've always done it. You're kind of like that Mikey in that Life commercial years ago where it was like, he'll do it. He'll do anything. He'll eat anything.
He'll eat it.
You know, so it's kind of that type of thing where it's like, oh, Amy will do it. She's done it for the last 5 years. I mean, come on, it's easy. And a part of that may be true. Like you might have everything set up, the template, all of the email lists, everything you need to, you know, to serve that purpose again, but it's not feeding you in the right way. And you just simply say, it's about setting a boundary. You just simply, you know, I'm busy this year. I'm sorry, I have another commitment. I can't do it this year. And that's something that you really need to take time to think about, because it's so easy to just do something that you've done in the past. And, you know, it's almost like habit, but yet it's really what they need. And it's what they want. And it's not really what you need at that time in your life. So I think that's a big one.
I like this, Amy, because I think if you say to someone, I can't do this, and maybe even not offering an explanation, people can't argue with that either, which I appreciate, or poke holes in your reasoning Exactly.
A firm no.
Very firm. Okay, we got to go through these last two quickly. The third one is forgive yourself. How do we do that?
Oh, how many times do you do that? You start your morning and you get downstairs and you're packing lunches or you're getting kids out the door or whatever it is, and somebody forgets a violin, or somebody forgets their lunch, and all of a sudden you get that call, or you're on your way to work and you forget something. You get that kid that calls you and says, "Mom, I need this." You know what? It's okay. Forgive yourself. Things happen. You know what? We make mistakes. That's okay. And, that's the biggest thing about that is just forgiving yourself and going forward. You know what? Everybody has bad days. And just because you didn't say, "Have a great day," or "I love you" before they left the door, send them a text, do something like that, but forgive yourself. Give yourself that gift of grace.
The last one you say, and I want to make sure we get it in, is practice good self-care. I think we've gotten a little better at this during the pandemic, or at least we've heard more about it.
Exactly. And that really corresponds with and coincides with boundaries. Self-care is getting moving every day. You know what? Carving out a little bit of time, 30 minutes, move your body. Maybe it's just going out at night and looking at the stars and actually just breathing fresh air and putting your phone aside and putting everybody else's needs aside. Maybe it's taking a bubble bath. It's that type of thing. It's that self-care where I always say treating yourself as that guest of honor. And it's so hard to do that. Talk to yourself as you would your child or your best friend. That's what's so important. That's taking care of yourself and putting yourself first, which is a challenge.
I love that. And that is how we can give ourselves grace. I think the way I learned it is talk to yourself like you would your child or your friend. It's wonderful advice. Amy, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. Amy has
Good to see you, Amy.
Good to see you. See you later.
She has a great book. She has a podcast. If you go to fearlesslyfacing50.com, you can learn more about her and all that great stuff.